Good morning, good day, or good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Depends on what time you are listening to this presentation. It's my first experience to make a voice record for the presentation. Usually we do it in real time, so please forgive any mistakes you can find in the presentation and in this record. So let's go on. Yeah, before getting to the point of this presentation, I would like to say a couple of words about the Helsinki Convention. This is the Convention on the Protection of the Baltic Sea Marine Environment. It was signed by 9 coastal countries of the Baltic Sea and the EU, altogether 10 contracting parties to the convention. And as I said, it is specifically aimed at protection of the fragile environment and ecosystem of the Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea is an inland sea. It has quite poor water exchange with the world ocean, and it is very busy sea. The population of the catchment area is about 85 million. That is why the sea is under multiple pressures, and the main pressure, the dominating pressure, is input of nutrient, which is causing eutrophication, and you are well aware about that. Helsinki Convention was signed initially in 1974 and then re-signed in 1992 after changing all these political circumstances, and it has 2 main articles pointing that contracting parties agreed to undertake all measures to prevent and eliminate pollution, and specifically emphasize the importance of land-based sources of pollution. And in this respect, contracting parties agreed to apply best available technologies to prevent this pollution. I should emphasize that in HELCOM context, best available technologies do not mean exactly the same than in a EU directive. So it considers a bit broader scope than the EU refs. The main political agreement on the implementation of the convention is Baltic Sea Action Plan. It consists of 4 parts, and 2 of them concern wastewater management sector. They are eutrophication and hazardous substances. You probably know that currently the Baltic Sea Action Plan is under update. We call this evolution, but not a revolution. So the previously agreed structure will be used for the update, but with some specific modification. For example, the part on hazardous substances, the segment on hazardous substances will be amended with the part on marine litter. Now it will be written as Baltic Sea unaffected by hazardous substances and litter, and the respective new objective will be added to this segment. You're probably all well aware that the latest HELCOM assessment evidently showed that the good environmental status in terms of eutrophication hasn't been achieved in the Baltic Sea yet. 96 to 98% of the sea is still in eutrophied conditions, which is proved by a number of indicators such as secchi depth, concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus, also oxygen demand, and some others. According to the existing assessments and experts' views, despite there is no, so to say, unified view on this matter, the eutrophication status of the sea wouldn't be immediately achieved when the countries will reduce the input to the maximum allowable level. The reason is the huge amount of nutrients accumulated in the sea in the past decades, which will require several decades even not years, but decades, according to various assessments, to turn the sea into the good environmental status. But according to the existing data, we should confess that maximum allowable input of nutrient hasn't been yet achieved for the whole Baltic Sea. The latest assessment data we have, referring to the year 2017, indicates a decreasing trend from 1995, but still indicate that the maximum allowable input hasn't been achieved neither for nitrogen nor for phosphorus. It means the total input into the Baltic Sea, and also it is valid for individual countries. The most alarming thing is illustrated by the diagram at the left upper corner of your screen, which is input of nutrients. You can see that we observe downwarding trends from 1991 up to 2012. But after that, you can see that horizontal dashed line, which clearly indicates that no progress has been achieved since that time. For phosphorus, we still can see the declining line, but we never know what statistics would say when we will get new data. Just probably we will get the same situation since 2012, which means that there is no reduction of input since that particular year. In respect over individual countries, so you can clearly see that there are several sub-basins where countries achieve their maximum allowable inputs, or in terms of countries, it says their input ceilings. And also you can see that most of the arrows, they point down, which means that input is decreasing. But nonetheless, you can see that neither countries, except probably Denmark, for input of nitrogen achieved their input ceilings. So a lot is to be done. Nutrients enter Baltic Sea via three major pathways. One is riverine, another one direct point sources. These are waterworks, industrial and municipalities, municipal wastewater treatment plants with a direct discharges to the sea, and nitrogen enter the sea depositing from air. You can see that significant reduction has been already achieved in point sources. You can see that the input of nitrogen was halved from point sources, from direct point sources, and about 70% was reduced for phosphorus. Also, remarkable reduction was achieved for airborne deposition of nitrogen, mainly due to reduction over emissions of nitrogen oxides. But still, riverine inputs remain the main dominating pathways for nutrients into the Baltic Sea. Riverine input has several contributors. First of all, this is natural background, something which we can accept, we can do nothing with. Then diffuse sources with domination of agriculture, but the share of point sources also are quite significant. And these are point sources which discharges to the rivers and also scattered dwellings. I should say that those scattered dwellings are not always considered as point sources. They, for some countries, for example, do not distinguish this category from diffuse sources. So then it might also belong to diffuse sources. But anyway, this belongs to waterworks, but not agriculture, which is definitely dominating for diffuse sources. The progress achieved in the wastewater management sector can be explained by several reasons, and I would like to emphasize two of them. First of all, that HELCOM recommendation on the urban wastewater management is stricter than, for example, the EU. But recommendation is not enough to really achieve the progress. The key element is their strong political commitments of HELCOM countries to reduce input of nutrients. But whether we still have something to be achieved in the wastewater sector, the last assessment has been just recently performed by HELCOM Action Project, and it shows that there is still potential to reduce input in wastewater sector. The assessment was based on the two major parameters. One was connectivity, and another one input from available data on discharges from wastewater treatment plants, which was reported by countries to PLC water database. Of course, this evaluation has a significant uncertainty, for example, due to the reason that for some countries reported aggregated data, like Russia, for example, some others. But anyway, this estimation shows that about 10,000 tons of nitrogen and more than 1,000 tons of nutrients can be still reduced. To compare, I gave you in this slide the required reduction. So you can see that the reduction in the wastewater sector is about 10%. Potential reduction in the wastewater sector is about 10% from nitrogen total input and about 15% over phosphorus input. Of course, with the measures in wastewater sector, we will not achieve targets of the Baltic Sea Action Plan, but it is still significant contribution. If we consider this potential in terms of sub-basins, I think those contribution of wastewater sector might be even bigger. But that is not the end of the story. I have already mentioned scattered dwellings and small settlements with a population, with the waterworks less than 300 person equivalent. And also HELCOM recommendation gives target values for discharges from this waterworks or whatever it is, small wastewater treatment plant or individual houses. But this implementation period for this recommendation is ahead of us. It's 2021, but the assessment is still ongoing. We hope that we will have at least an estimation over potential reductions for scattered dwellings in individual houses in terms of input of nutrients. Yes, we achieve progress. We really learn how to remove nutrients from wastewater. But what happens next? Yeah, we all know quite well that nitrogen is mainly returned to atmosphere where it came from. But what to do with phosphorus? Precipitation on phosphorus ends up in a 3.5 million tons of dried phosphorus enriched solids, which is sewage sludge. In general, this is one of the sources of phosphorus which might substitute all amount of mineral fertilizers annually applied in the agricultural sector of the Baltic Sea region. But this requires, so to say, shifting a paradigm from removal to recycling. And the beginning of that process has been laid by HELCOM recommendation on sewage sludge handling, which didn't contain any specific prescriptions or recipes what can be done with the sewage sludge, but it show, so to say, show the way how to handle sewage sludge safely with the aim to minimize potential negative effects, but at the same time to utilize valuable components of sewage sludge as much as possible. That was the beginning of new thoughts. That actually the other contributor to this process was the EU communication on circular economy. And that pushed HELCOM countries to think about recycling of nutrients and understanding that the nutrient loop has to be closed, minimizing additional nutrients exported to the region and subsequently minimizing leakages into the aquatic environment. The decision to develop regional nutrient recycling strategy was taken by ministerial declaration in 2018, and the initial aim of the strategy is reducing of nutrient inputs and minimizing eutrophication effects. According to the ministerial decision, the strategy should be based on measures at source rather than end-of-pipe solutions, meaning that we should think how to manage nutrient flows in a way to close the loop rather than chasing nutrients which are about to be discharged into the marine environment or just aquatic environment. It should utilize base available scientific knowledge and should be focused on recycling of nutrients in agriculture, which is not only the main producer of nutrients but also the main consumer, and in sewage sector. So the content is vision, which is a key thing. Means that all HELCOM countries should have a common vision. What does recycling of nutrients mean? Objectives to achieve this vision, and also measures which can be implemented to achieve objectives and vision. The work started about a year ago, a bit more, with a strong leadership by Finland. And in the HELCOM frame, there are two groups which are mainly responsible for this development, and these are Agri group, the group on agricultural practices, sustainable agricultural practices, and pressure group, the group on reduction of pressure from land-based sources. The group developed the vision, which was approved by heads of delegations, and a number of objectives. The first objective is rather ambitious, so we are to be a model area for nutrient recycling, which means that the whole world should follow us in this respect. Environmental impact should be reduced in terms of input of nutrients, and it should be achieved through safe nutrient recycling, which means minimizing of contamination. Also, the strategy indicates the need to create business opportunities, so to involve not only governmental structures and authorities and public sector, but also private sector. It should improve policy coherence, which is a crucial point here for this recycling is a cross-sectoral activity, and all those barriers between sectors are to be eliminated. And also knowledge exchange and awareness raising is a key point. Further step is development of measures. I would say that it's quite a thrilling process in general. It was supported by two Interreg project platform. Project platform is a new instrument proposed by Interreg, and the idea is to capitalize on the outcomes of various projects and integrate them into the regional policy framework. Those instruments were very suitable for the development of the regional strategy, and two project platforms, BSR Water and Sumano, focused on measures to recycle nutrients in agriculture. In the wastewater management sector, currently serve as a support for the development of this part of the strategy, I mean measures. There was a quite massive contribution from these two projects for the HELCOM workshop, which resulted in literally more than 100 proposals of measures. That was fantastic input from local experts. But then all those measures are to be cleaned, distributed between different objectives. And this is currently ongoing work. That is why I do not give any measures here, for the work is currently ongoing. Hope that we will get some interesting results after head of delegation meeting in this December. And also HELCOM contracting parties decided that 6 actions which are the most crucial to achieve these 6 strategies objectives will be included into the Baltic Sea Action Plan. And this work is also currently going on. So we will soon know how we should recycling these nutrients, what should be done. And we are really awaiting those results, but I would like to also highlight some other HELCOM processes which are so highly relevant for the wastewater sector. First of all, this is update of the HELCOM Baltic Sea Action Plan with the so-called motor evolution and not revolution, means that the updated Baltic Sea Action Plan will be based on the previous one, fully utilizing the structure and what was proposed for that, but also setting at least the same ambition level, not lowering it. But some other issues which will be integrated there, as I already mentioned, this is marine litter, and for example, what is important for the wastewater sector is microparticles, where point sources are considered one of the key contributors, whether it is municipal wastewater or domestic wastewater or urban stormwater. But anyway, this is another topic. And also a new issue here is so-called emerging contaminants, which is also quite relevant for wastewater sector. To reflect properly all these new issues, there will be a number of supplementary documents to the Baltic Sea Action Plan developed. One of them, of course, this is nutrient recycling strategy. You have already heard about that. Then we are planning to revise regional action plan on marine litter with the specific issues related to microliter addressed in that revised version. We are planning to prepare regional policy document on hazardous substances, with the main idea is to refresh the whole HELCOM framework for hazardous substances. For example, to make it more flexible and more responsive to emerging issues, to emerging concerns, and also better reflect priority substances and many other issues, indicators and whatsoever. Currently, we are preparing the report on micropollutants in wastewater treatment plant. It has a specific focus, so on perfluorinated substances, phenols, heavy metals, and pharmaceuticals. These are key priorities which were identified by contracting parties. We are now focused on them. And this report also will propose some technological solutions, how to minimize the input of these substances. But this is coming soon. The draft has already been compiled, now in the final stage. And also another ongoing work is a revision of HELCOM recommendation on urban stormwater management. Actually, this is not a new recommendation, it's revision over old version, which was mainly aimed at prevention of oil contamination, but now it addresses also microliter. Actually, that was a key reason for the revision of the recommendation. It also addresses contaminants and what is very important, it's climate change resilience. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Despite of the achieved progress, we definitely have a lot to do. And this wonderful lady says there is no time for a coffee break. We should work further to achieve our common goal, healthy Baltic Sea. Thank you.